In October of 2022, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin visited Bristol to speak at an event co-sponsored by Cardinal News and the Bristol Chamber of Commerce. A crew from Ridge PBS and PBS Appalachia was there to record the governor's thoughts on economic development, education, and the recent flooding in far southwest Virginia. Echo is pleased to present his remarks in their entirety.
We're excited to have our governor here with us today in a great partnership with Cardinal News as part of their speaker series. You'll hear from Dwayne Yancey in just a moment. I would ask that any of our elected officials, elected state delegation, our elected officials, and representatives and of our federal legislative offices to please stand and be recognized. All right. Thank you. I also want to thank the students that are here today from Virginia High School. This is an incredible opportunity to be here with our governor and to hear from him firsthand. And you all are in for a treat, so thank you for being here as well. Thanks again to Mark Kent and his team at United Company for being our sponsor, along with our venue sponsor, our venue, Bristol train station, along with our food providers, Burger Bar. So thank you to them as well. Yeah. Now I'd like to ask Dwayne Yancey, executive editor with Cardinal News, to come up and tell us a little bit about the organization and speaker series. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out. Welcome to the Cardinal News Speaker Series. This is the third event we have had where we've had a major speaker come in to speak about the economy. We had previous events in Blacksburg and Danville, and we're honored to be hosting His Excellency the Governor here today in Bristol. So thank you for coming out. I should thank our co-sponsors, the Bristol Chamber of Commerce, United Company, train station, and Burger Bar as well, to help make this event possible. If you don't know us, you're about to. We are a nonprofit online news site covering Southwest and Southside Virginia. We launched in September 2021. In the past year, we have doubled in size, and with your help, we will double in size again over the coming year. We have no paywall. We sell no advertising. We depend entirely on donations. So if you like what we're doing, feel inclined to do that. I should thank the Geenan Foundation, which has enabled us to have a reporter based here in Bristol, Susan Cameron, who many of you know from her long years of service here. You can also go to cardinalnews.org to sign up for our free daily email newsletter. And it's now my duty and honor to introduce one of our readers, and that is Delegate Israel O'Quinn, or perhaps more importantly, Deputy House Majority Leader O'Quinn. He was elected to the House in 2011, serves on Commerce and Energy, Privileges and Election, and Rules, or as we say in the news business, all the important ones. He was also named the Virginia Chamber Legislator of the Year. He works for the parent company of Food City. He's a proud graduate of Emory and Henry, and we've had many conversations about Emory and Henry sports, and he and his wife Emily reside in Washington County. The Deputy House Majority Leader.
Well, thank you, Dwayne, and thanks to all of you for coming out on this early morning, rainy morning, but it's definitely going to be worth it because you're going to enjoy hearing from our special guest today. And that's the person that I'm honored to introduce today, and that's, of course, Governor Glenn Youngkin. And, you know, I could have printed his bio off of governor.virginia.gov and read that to you. And had I done that, you would have learned that he grew up in Virginia Beach. He went to Rice University, where he played D1 basketball for the Owls. I would have told you he graduated from Harvard with an MBA, that he went on to become CEO of the Carlyle Group and turned them into one of the most successful investment firms in the world. I also told you that his wife, Suzanne, is an amazing First Lady for the Commonwealth of Virginia. and that they have 4 kids of whom they are very proud. And all of that's 100% true. But I want to also introduce you to the person that I've come to know over the last year or so. So it's pretty rare for us, for our legislative delegation, to run into someone running for statewide office that we've never met before. And that holds true for Republicans and Democrats. And that's generally a byproduct of General Assembly members who are running for higher office, for political types who've been around the game for a long time, folks that we've known for forever. And so when someone announces a run that we haven't met, typically there's a pretty heavy dose of skepticism because we just aren't sure of their motives. We've seen this before, and a lot of times it just doesn't work out. But in January of 2021, Glenn Youngkin announced a campaign for governor. And I remember our delegation sitting around and having a conversation, and it's like, we pretty well reckoned that we'd never met him and we really didn't know much about him. And so we went on about our business. And of course, this is in the context of that statewide race being flooded with General Assembly members on both sides of the aisle and people that we've known for forever. But lo and behold, he won the nomination, and all of a sudden our paths really began to cross a whole lot over the course of 2021. He was in Southwest Virginia a lot during that campaign and promised to come back if he was elected. And you know, we've all learned the hard way that that's a promise that's often uttered and quickly abandoned. But you know the rest. He was elected governor in an election that pretty well shocked the political world. And so there we were. He won. We're in January. We're headed back in with a Republican governor. We're headed back into the majority. We've got people in leadership positions. So we now had a person that we knew, but we never actually worked with. So you might ask, what's it been like working with Governor Glenn Youngkin? First thing that you'll notice is that he listens very intently. And then after he listens, he asks a lot of really tough questions. And he asks those questions of us. He asks those questions of his staff. And he really tries to drill into the issue so that he understands what it is, so that he can make the best decision and offer the best advice possible. He's also someone who's very strongly guided by his faith. So on Friday mornings, the House and Senate leadership have breakfast over at the governor's mansion. And I can tell you, after a long week of legislating, and it being at 7 o'clock on a Friday morning, you may or may not be feeling particularly prayerful at that given moment. But he always takes out time to say a prayer, and it's for humility and for physical strength and for discernment and understanding, and that's for friends and foes alike. You know, he's not, you know, asking God to rain down fire upon his enemies. He really is a good person, and he is absolutely carrying through on that promise that he made repeatedly to come back to Southwest Virginia. He's been here twice in 2 weeks, and that's one of many trips. And he understands our issues, and most importantly, wants to work with us. And that is just not something we have always had at the state level. And so he is exactly the right person at this moment in Virginia history. And Southwest Virginia really could not have a better partner. So I want you to please stand and make welcome my good friend, His Excellency, the Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin.
Thank you. Well, good morning. Good morning. Hope everybody has had a cup of coffee or two, because we are going to put on our track shoes and cover some ground this morning. And I think that's what everybody in this room deserves, and that's what Virginians deserve, and that's what Southwest Virginia deserves. But first, Israel, thank you for that incredibly kind introduction. I have so enjoyed developing deep friendships with people all across the Commonwealth, but I have to say, particularly here in Southwest Virginia, not only do I love the outdoors, and if you have a moment to go hunting and fishing, I'll come along with you, but I am so impressed by your elected representatives who go to work every day in order to deliver for you. And I often say that I think one of the biggest problems in government, and this is what inspired me to quit my job and throw my hat in the ring to run, and I guess I'll say real quickly, thank you for hiring me, is the fact that I think elected officials in many parts of Virginia and many parts of our country had forgotten one important reality, is that they work for you. And I will tell you with deep, deep sincerity that the elected officials that you all have chosen know they work for you. And so I just want to thank the entire Southwest delegation for the amazing work that you all do. You do it in a bipartisan nature, you stand up strong for your principles, and you deliver for the folks that you work for. And so I just want to thank all of you. So we're going to talk about economic development, commerce, all those things today, but I'm going to cover a fair amount of ground on some other topics as well. And then we're going to have a great conversation. And one of the things I'm most excited about is the fact that a conversation means you get to talk about lots of things, and there's lots of things in the air today. I think one of the most important things that I have learned over the last 9 months is how much you can get done in government. And the other reality is how much we needed to get done, because we had a long way to go. And we were in a bit of a hole in the Commonwealth, on all candor. And that was a hole that had been created, I think, by a lot of bad decisions that were made along the way. And oh, by the way, a lot of promises that were made, not kept. And most importantly, I think by determining that government knows better than people. And at the end of the day, our government is here to serve you. Our government is here to listen to you. And most importantly, our government is here to partner with you to facilitate outcomes that make Virginia the best place to live, work, and raise a family. And that is a combination of responsibilities that we hold incredibly, incredibly carefully. Because if you actually grip it too tight, you'll forget that I work for you. And if you don't hold it tight enough, you won't work for you. And so there is a very careful moment here where this partnership that exists between the citizens of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and particularly today, those in Southwest Virginia, your elected leaders, business leaders, those that work in nonprofits, those that just are working the most important job in America, which is being a parent, all come together to deliver outcomes that make Virginians' lives better. Yes, the best place to live, work, and raise a family. And that is a collective responsibility. And I'm just so excited to have had an opportunity to be elected last fall, but also to go to work every morning. I have to say, I walked down the steps of this amazing home that I get to live in with my lovely wife, Suzanne, who, by the way, is just a rock star first lady. And thank you for your comments. I'm just so proud of her. And our youngest son, Thomas, we still have one at home. And every morning I walk down those steps and I stop for a minute and I look over that fence and I see our Capitol that was designed by Thomas Jefferson, and I catch myself every morning and I do say, Lord, thank you. Thank you for putting me in this position of service right now at this time with extraordinary people to work with. And Lord, I need your help today, because there's a lot of big decisions that need to be made and there's a lot of big things that need to be done. And by no means am I capable of doing them on my own. And it's an amazing thing that happens over the course of the day after a prayer like that, is help shows up. And it shows up in all forms. And in the evening, I remind myself to, again, say thank you for the help today. And I look forward to talking to you again in the morning. And that's such a wonderful rhythm. With that, I also want to thank everybody for the prayers that you often up every day. I go so many places and shake hands and meet people, and oftentimes for the 3rd, 4th, 10th, 20th time. And there's nothing more affirming than when someone says, I'm praying for you and your family. And I just want you to know that I see the affirmation of those prayers every day. And it matters. And so thank you. So today we're going to talk about a lot of important things. We went to work on day one to get Virginia moving. And it was to ensure that, yes, Virginia will become that shining city on the hill that we know she must be, can be, and will be. And when I raised my hand and put my other hand on the Bible and said, so help me God, we immediately then went to work. And we issued a slew of executive orders and directives. We submitted over 50 bills, an entire package of budget amendments to put in place our day one agenda. Our day one agenda was formulated over the course of a year, speaking and listening to Virginians. And boy, we got all of it done. I have to tell you, I'm just stunned. The only thing we didn't get done was the suspension of the gas tax for the summer. I still can't understand why the Senate Democrats didn't want to give everybody a break in Virginia when we got plenty of money, but we'll talk about that this session with them. But we got so much moving. And what that means is that not that the results have been realized, but the gates were open for the work to happen. And I just, again, want to thank all of our colleagues in the General Assembly for helping us put in place all of those necessary pieces of legislation, a budget that delivers in order to get Virginia moving. We said many things on day one. One at the top of the list of importance is that Virginia is open for business. And you can't help but look back over the last few years and recognize the importance of that statement. It's that we're open, and we're open for business. And that cultural shift is critical. I was both full, as I had had lunch at the Burger Bar last Friday. And I have to say, if you have a minute to stop in and find something on the menu, I highly recommend the Big Mick. Although you're going to need a couple days of exercise to take countermeasures. But I had a chance to walk out on State Street, and I was talking to business owners, and I could see on one side of State Street and another side of State Street this both bright but also fuzzy line between Tennessee and Virginia. And we talked about the stories of when the Virginia side was shut and the Tennessee side was open, and the long-lasting impact that that has had on businesses. And I just want to be very clear. Virginia has been open since January 15th. She is open. She will be open. And I have to say, she is roaring. And I am so encouraged by the momentum that has been built across the Commonwealth, but also right here in Southwest Virginia. The work that we started was exactly that, starting. Because Virginia had a setback. And we needed to get moving and identify those most important issues that we had roadblocks to knock down. And those roadblocks have not all been knocked down by far, but boy, we're making progress in knocking them down. At the heart of this is the clear idea that we have to grow. And Virginia, for so long, had seen stagnant growth. For the 8 years prior to our inauguration, less than 1% across the Commonwealth, and that's an average across the Commonwealth, and you all know here in Southwest Virginia, it wasn't close to that. And one of the biggest issues that we had seen was the outward migration of Virginians who had decided to vote with their feet and their wallet and go other places. And the biggest group that was moving away were our young people. So I'll have a lot to say to our students from Virginia High School today, who I'm so happy that you're here. But I want you to know one thing. We want you here. We want you to build your lives in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We want you to build your futures in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I think that your hopes and dreams can absolutely be fulfilled in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So thank you for being here. And I've got a few more comments on that in a minute. But at the heart of growth is the requirement to recognize that the feedstock for growth is innovation, the feedstock for growth is ambition, and the feedstock for growth is recognizing that economic development is a team sport. And Southwest Virginia gets all three of those. You know, necessity is the motherhood of invention. And as I've traveled around Southwest Virginia from my very first trip here, I have been struck by the palpable presence of a need to innovate and be creative and to get things done. There was a group of gentlemen I met with in Lebanon early on, and after we were talking about economic development, I said, well, you guys are amazing. I mean, you're making things happen. And they looked at me with a very, very sincere and yet somewhat stern look and said, yeah, because if we wait for help from Richmond, we're going nowhere. And you know, that has stuck with me ever since. And so I don't want to begin to suggest that Richmond's going to fix things in Southwest Virginia, but we are an active partner now. And I want you to know you've had my commitment. You continue to have our commitment at the administration to make sure that we are an active partner. What that translates to is a recognition that every single region of Virginia has attributes. It has challenges, but attributes. And the attributes in Southwest Virginia are overwhelmingly positive. And we spend a lot of time talking about the natural attributes, but we can't forget them. We can't forget the fact that we see in Southwest Virginia a place to live that draws people here, that people want to be here. And when you can couple that with an opportunity to fulfill your economic aspirations, your career aspirations, and your life aspirations, that is a winning formula. And so when we bring all these things together, we in fact can win. And I just want to take a pit stop and just offer a real shout out for the Bristol Chamber of Commerce, because you all are leading the way here in Bristol. Partnerships that in fact bring things to life. The recognition that between the Motor Speedway, which is on the wrong side of the border. Well, a side note, I did have the great privilege of being the Grand Marshal for the Food City 300 just a little while ago, 3-4 weeks ago. And I guess I overstepped my boundaries, because when I was talking to the crowd, I let them know how much I appreciated those of you from Virginia hiring me. And for those of you from Tennessee, you can move to Virginia now. You know, we got a pretty good roar out of the crowd. I'm hoping that there's a lot of one-way U-Hauls now coming this way. But when you see the recognition from the chamber here in Bristol to bring together the attributes that Bristol and the surrounding area have to offer, like our amazing natural wonders, and when I had a chance to be at the Mendota Trail opening, it just brings alive the realities of what you can do when you live here, but also business interests and the amazing hub that is here when it comes to arts and recreation. And so just to the chamber, thank you for the great work that you do. But I do think that this idea of partnership is one that we have to bring to a whole new level. And it's a level that the state government, I think, has really not participated in the same way that it should, particularly over the last numbers of years. So to build on the progress, we have to bring real focus. And that focus is to regions of Virginia outside of our big metropolitan areas and the suburbs that surround them. And I think this is all about recognizing regional strengths. And so what we have been really focused on is recognizing those regional strengths, and they abound. And we're seeing some real benefits from that. So just since we've been in office, we've had a number of major economic development announcements, over $200 million of investment announced coming to the region. And you know many of these, but they span the spectrum of industries, all the way from industries that we just have a unpenetrable natural advantage, like the Coronado Global Resources investment, because we in fact are the workhorse to supply metallurgical coal to the steel industry, and we should do more of this, but also to some basic great manufacturing, from the Bates family farm and lotions and soaps to making food and beverage packaging at Shoal IPA. There's a number of these, and I have to say the pipeline of interest in businesses coming here is, as the VEDP folks tell me, the best it's ever been. But we also see the hard work that's been done in the past now coming to fruition. And to see the Earthlink call center in Norton, right on the verge of hiring hundreds and hundreds of people. And to see the Blue Star Glove Factory really hiring lots of people. And by the way, to hear today, and something that I already knew, that the casino here in Bristol is out of the box, and there's already 600 people with a career, and shortly there'll be another 600 that have to be hired. There's just a lot of good stuff going on. But the reality, of course, is that it's not enough, and a lot of the elements that need to be put in place, we have to go to work to continue to develop. And so let me just start with the first one, which is workforce. And one of the challenges that we have across the Commonwealth and across the nation is workforce. And let's just be clear. I believe that there's been an amplification of this challenge during the pandemic as the federal government incentivized people not to go to work, paid them to stay home, and we've lost an enormous amount of our workforce. Just to be clear, Virginia used to have labor participation, and this is the number to watch, friends. We used to have nearly 67% labor participation. We're down at 63 and change. That's hundreds of thousands of people that have disappeared from the workforce. We need them back, and we got to get them back. And so we are systematically going at this in a number of ways. And let me just start with our firm commitment to partner with industry and education. And it's so fun to see the representatives from the great education institutions here, and particularly UVA-wise. Thank you. We had a great council presidents meeting yesterday, but friends from the community college system. I mean, this all matters. But we have a uniform commitment to bring together government, education institutions, and businesses in order to train the workforce of the future. And what we're seeing is faster cycle times, far more input, and a direct request from business that we need a workforce that can do this. And let's figure out how to train them. And that is super, super exciting, because all of a sudden this feedback loop of what are the jobs we need and how do we train them is now translating from a board conversation to action. But we're going to have to take this to a whole new level. And I will in December, as part of my overall framework for what I call day two, overall framework of day two, challenge our education system, K through 12 and higher ed, to make sure that every student that graduates from a Virginia high school graduates with a credential or a 2-year associate's degree in a field that would allow them to go to work right away or go to college and explore your dreams in college. And in both ways, immediately be prepared to go right into life. I think this is a big moment for Virginia to chart a new path that we recognize that our high school students are the future, and we need to help them be prepared to take that future. And so again, to our friends from Virginia High School, and notwithstanding the fact I'm sure you're still living high on your win last Friday of 49-7, I think. And I do feel bad for your opponents this weekend, because I think you're playing a team that's 1-6. But there is such a great future ahead of you. And what we want to do is work with industry and work with our higher education institutions and professional training institutions in order to make sure that in high school, you have a chance to explore your dreams, to try new things. And if you decide to go to college, you'll be ready. And if you choose to go right into the workforce, you'll have a skill that will allow you to stack and build your career. One of those areas that we're really focused on is in law enforcement. And now we have a badge and degree program where students can come right out of high school and head into law enforcement and build to a degree that we will in fact pay for in order to build the workforce of the future in law enforcement. It is a noble career, and we invite everybody to explore it. I know among individuals that when we sit there and we look at the vulnerabilities of our workforce, we can see specific areas that we need to train into. Manufacturing skills, the skilled trades, so that we can build all the things that we need to build. Oh, by the way, healthcare workers, law enforcement, teachers. The key here is to identify those key areas and put programs in place to get us there. And that's one of the things that we are so focused on. You can't hit a target if you don't know what the target is. And that's why planning is so important. And so you'll see specific initiatives in order to build workforce in these most high demand jobs. One of the things that I would encourage our high school friends here today is that in this room is your future boss. Go meet him. Go meet him. There's a tremendous collection of business leaders here. And so before you leave, everybody from Virginia High School, this is my challenge to you. Make sure that you have gotten the name and phone number and email address of one of the business leaders here in the room, and then follow up tonight. Don't wait till next week. Do it tonight. Relationships have a half-life. Go build a relationship today and then go capitalize it, because these folks in the room want you to come work for them. You are the scarce resource. And so meet them and make them hire you. Make them hire you. Second big piece of workforce is apprenticeships and internships. And we have this just overwhelming confusion about this topic in government. And so we are working to rationalize our entire workforce program. Let me just give you a frame. When we've come in and cataloged, and it's taken us 7 months to catalog workforce programs across the Commonwealth of Virginia, just at the state level. There's 1,500 training programs, and this Commonwealth of Virginia spends over $450 million a year in workforce training. And my general sense is we don't get an A+ in all of them. And so we're bringing them all together under one roof. We're going to make sure that we can see what's happening and work to guarantee A+ in every single one of them. And an A+ is not the number of people trained. An A+ is the number of people who get a job. And that is so important for us to focus on. And I know we'll talk about this later, but one of the biggest challenges in workforce today is childcare. And we'll talk more about it in a moment. But there is a real issue with the fact that particularly women have seen the biggest decline in labor participation as they have prioritized appropriately, in my view. And that's not a judgment, that's just a personal belief that sometimes a parent has to step out of their professional career, a mother or a father, and take care of the things that matter most, our parents, our kids. But we also have to create a pathway back for them and rebuild our childcare infrastructure that was so devastated during the pandemic. And so we'll talk more about that in the question and answer, I'm hoping, and if you don't, I'll volunteer it. But there's tremendous effort to make sure that the child care facilities are able to reopen, that the workforce, behind the workforce, is encouraged, and that we can provide a path for so many people back in to the workforce, and they don't have to worry about where their child is and are they safe. Finally on workforce, this combination of higher ed and K through 12 and business interests has translated into a great track record of success. I just want to call out one last time on what's going on at UVA-Wise. UVA-Wise is part of the $2 billion Tech Talent Investment Program. That is the statewide effort to fundamentally change the number of computer science and technology-related degrees that are granted. And UVA-Wise is on track to meet its metrics. And by the way, I believe in metrics. 362 students who are enrolled to date, 74 degrees awarded as of May 2022. Mountain Empire and the other Southwest Virginia Community College are also training students in cybersecurity, mobile apps, and software design. This is a statewide effort, and some of our best successes are here in Southwest Virginia. And so I just want to, again, thank the leadership of UVA-Wise. Donna, thank you for being here today, but also our community college system that are doing a great job. One big development that everyone will see is the implementation of lab schools across Virginia. And the lab school development is a way to inject into our public school system alternative paths for specific study. We already have 5 applications that are in, about 40 that are in process across the Commonwealth. I want to thank Senator Pillion for carrying huge water on the whole effort, and so thank you, sir. But these lab schools are integrated into our public school system. And to see the first applications that are collaborative efforts, applications that include four-year universities, community colleges, local school districts, business interests, and are taking up excess capacity inside our existing facilities to provide avenues for healthcare, for STEM, for specific computer science, for the trades. This is an exciting element for us to offer multiple pathways for our Virginia kids. Finally, we have to have people teach. And one of the big challenges that we have had is that the investment in education, in my view, has been focused on not impact investing. And so the largest education budget in the history of Virginia was passed last summer. And I just appreciate the collaboration on all fronts. There's a 10% raise for teachers plus a bonus. There's $3.2 billion of incremental investment in education. We, on top of that, have pushed hard to come up with innovative ways to support schools construction. And I want to thank Delegate O'Quinn for his leadership on that front. There's $1.25 billion that leverages in over $3 billion to support construction in schools. Friends, if you haven't figured it out yet, workforce matters. And we are on many fronts addressing it. There's no silver bullet to this issue. It requires a comprehensive approach to get things moving. And we've got things moving, and we're going to begin to see the real results. Second big topic I want to talk about are the specific opportunities to redevelop existing spaces for new opportunities. You see, site development is something that previous administrations had either ignored purposely or inadvertently, and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But you can't look and see what's happened to the states around us, where for the last 8 to 10 years, they have been investing in site development. When it comes to big projects, they win because we're years behind. And so again, with great collaboration from the delegation of Southwest Virginia, we included $158 million in site development support in this most recent budget to get sites ready so companies who are ready to build, who are ready to move, can have a place to go that already has utilities, that's already graded, that has connectivity with transportation, and we've just got to move faster. And so that money is starting to be put to work, but we have got to run. We can't walk. I'm particularly excited about the work that is being done in order to build site readiness in something near and dear to my heart, which is the redevelopment of former coaling assets. And in fact, the AMLR grants, which is the abandoned mine land economic revitalization efforts, have been big. And Congressman Griffith, who's not here today because his mother's not doing well, and so please add her and his family to your prayer list. But Congressman Griffith has gone to work. And just 3 weeks ago, we were able to announce over $10 million in grants in order to begin the exploration and some of the specific redevelopment of former mine properties. That fits incredibly closely with my push for us to establish Southwest Virginia as the energy hub of Virginia innovation. And that's going to start with a $10 million energy innovation fund, with $5 million of that focused to develop a nuclear hub here in Virginia, Southwest Virginia, to lead the way in the development of next-gen capabilities in modular nuclear reactors, small reactors that can be deployed around the Commonwealth as opposed to having them in one place to provide baseload power supply. But that also includes research funding and development funding for next-gen technologies in hydrogen, for next-gen technologies in carbon capture, and next-gen technologies in battery storage. And all of that squares up with all the capabilities that exist here already. And I look forward to this rocket ship having a turbo booster on it, because of what's already available in Southwest Virginia and what, between state efforts, academic efforts, business efforts, the great workforce that's already here, and federal support, we can do to fundamentally change the future of not just Virginia's power supply, but also Southwest Virginia's economic interests. There has been an enormous amount of work done on this front already, and one of the things that I really, really appreciate is the collaborative efforts that have been brought together, in particularly around Invest Southwest. This was an opportunity that was brought together again by your elected representatives who had a vision for how to come together and collaborate. And we're beginning to see that spread into many areas. So Project VEER is building on the region's advanced manufacturing legacy to explore entry points for manufacturers to come here for onshore and offshore wind. That supply chain is going to be huge, and there's going to be opportunities all across the Commonwealth of Virginia to participate in what will be a nationally and internationally leading capability. We also are, when we look beyond just manufacturing and energy, the Lonesome Pine Regional Industrial Facility Authority, which is a revenue sharing partnership, again, amongst multiple jurisdictions, is bringing together the capability to attract technology and other kinds of computer science and networking companies here to Southwest Virginia. I just for a moment want to stop. That's what it takes. It takes collaboration. It takes selflessness. It takes a recognition that together we are stronger. It takes a recognition that if we try to do things that are, and we think about selfish pursuits, we're going to fail. But when we bring folks together across this region, we win. And it is so exciting to see it happen. I want to mention one topic that is very much connected, but not directly, which is floods in Buchanan County. Last year during the campaign, there was a horrific flood in Buchanan County, in Hurley, and I had a chance to go visit with people. And I also want to stop again, and I just want to thank the work by particularly Delegate Moorfield and Senator Hackworth. And that's not to leave anybody out, but you guys were there. You had mud on your face. You were pulling people out of their car, helping tow their cars out and rescue people and delivering food. And I want to thank you all. What we've seen in these two flood examples is the reality that we don't have the state mechanics in place in order to respond as quickly as we like. The emergency response was amazing, and that was local emergency response with first-line responders who just worked 24 hours a day. That was state support from our Department of Emergency Management, who came in residence and stood up shop. That was response from the community. I remember standing in the high school and seeing truckloads of food coming in from Food City and other folks. The outpouring of support was tremendous. The challenge has been in the federal government's response. So we file an emergency declaration request, and in the case of Hurley first, they acknowledged the public assistance emergency declaration, but they didn't acknowledge the individual assistance. And we appealed, and they denied it again. And then immediately, Delegate Moorfield went to work along with the rest of the Southwest delegation and got $11 million put into the budget that I signed in June that went in effect on July 1st. And then immediately, the team had to go to work to stand up a mini FEMA, because this is not a capability that has existed. And there's been great leadership from the Department of Social Services in Buchanan County. Marsha Watson, who's the executive director there, Howie Fuller, who's the board chair. And I want to thank those folks particularly for the huge effort in order to facilitate what is now sort of on the cusp of ready to go from funds to flow. There's a big meeting this week, a DSS board meeting. That's where they'll approve the process. Starting on November 2nd, we'll have open town meetings to brief everybody on how it's going to work. On November the 9th, applications can be put in. And then money will flow well before Christmas to folks. That's in combination with small business administration grants that are available with very low interest rates for people to get support. All of this happens too slowly, all of it. And my heart breaks for folks who have lost everything, that we can't turn on a dime. But I will tell you, with the leadership from your Southwest delegation and the commitment from the administration, this process that we now have in place can move much more quickly. Unfortunately, with the Whitewood flood, we're seeing the exact same pattern, where the public assistance grant or declaration was granted by the federal government. The individual assistance grant was denied. Rather than waste everybody's time with an appeal that we knew was going to fail, we went right to the SBA loans. Those are in place. And I look forward to working with our Southwest delegation to make sure that incremental funds are included in this next year's budget in order to provide the same kind of state support that's needed. We have to recognize there are storm clouds on the horizon from the macro economy. This is not a political statement. This is the truth. I think bad policies that have come out of Washington have really put our national economy at risk. And we're doing everything we can at the state level in order to combat that. But we know that there's storm clouds on the horizon. And the way we combat that is to continue to drive execution of the things we know are working. workforce development, companies expansion. Let's help every project be on time, on budget. Let's make sure we have a great workforce. Let's have zero defects in manufacturing. Let's make sure that we, in fact, have the nicest people who answer phones at call centers. I do find that when someone says, hello, how's your day? God bless you. I'm a lot happier when somebody picks up the phone and says, what do you want? So this is all about the way that Virginia and Southwest Virginia can help success. I think this vision of establishing an energy hub grounded in the future of nuclear energy, and particularly modular nuclear reactors, has got just a groundbreaking opportunity in front of it. I think we can build on so many capabilities, and I look forward to locking arms with all of you and making sure that Southwest Virginia, as well as Virginia, is the best place to live, work, and raise a family. So God bless you, and I look forward to the conversation.